So we are back at Bracken Road in Bellevue because unfortunately, after 5 months of use of our rooftop tent and Frontrunner Slimline roof rack, something unfortunate happened. We were driving down the freeway, headed back home after a camping trip, and all of a sudden the back of the roof rack just came up. And I have videos in here that will show that too. But basically, this just failed. And I don't know exactly the mechanism of how that failed, but it did. So it is not safe right now to drive it. And you can see that we kind of put in ratcheting straps in here to just make sure that we're not flying off. These things are not flying off while we're on the freeway. So bottom line is, apparently having the Frontrunner roof rack on top, supporting this rooftop tent is not the best way to do it. I don't know.
Yeah, the brackets, it seemed like the failure was in the bracket right here. It bent up, and where we're driving down the road. So, anyways, that's our challenge.
News.
And it seems like the at least with the size of our tent and on the with the Subaru rack, it's a little bit too high up, and there's uplift when we're driving down the road down the freeway. So
yeah, which is about 60 to 70 miles an hour.
Yeah. So we're gonna get that changed.
Yeah, so we're probably gonna end up with the other roof rack that I was considering,
Prinsu,
which is the Prinsu, which would actually lower it down a lot more. It would be way more labor intensive, but hopefully it would be safer in the long run. So we just pulled off the freeway because we heard a loud clank while driving. And look at this. This is what the Frontrunner Slimline roof rack should look like attached to the Outback roof rack. Look at the back of it. Look, it's flying away. The attachment is all bent and literally about to fly off in here. I am shivering, sorry for the shaking. And the same one on the other side. So it's kind of flying away on the back end from both sides. There. You can see no gap, or baby gap, little gap here. That's how it should look like. And then a lot of gap here. So somehow when this popped open while we were driving, I didn't notice the other damage because I was kind of more concerned about this, but the next day when we looked, we actually had damage from that caused by the tent somehow bouncing and hitting my antenna. And look at this. This is the bottom of my rooftop tent. Look at that. So for reference, that's my finger. That's how big that hole is. And it's pretty deep in there, actually. Deep and sharp. Goes in quite a bit in there. I did check the underside of the rooftop tent. Thankfully, it did not actually penetrate all the way through. So there's yay for small miracles. But we're thinking somehow it bounced all the way into the antenna. The other one is, look at this. You have one dent and a second dent, which we're thinking came from the ladders of the rooftop tent. So I honestly have no idea how it bounced from this high. Well, normally it would be lower. It would be more flush to the roof rack here, but somehow bounced all the way to my antenna in the top of the car, enough to cause the dent and enough to actually ding the underside of my rooftop tent. How did we come about that? Because look at this. It actually has a dent in here too. And on the other side, there is another dent in there. So we know somehow the Frontrunner Slimline roof rack hit this hard enough to dent it and cause all the other damage. So we just had Rack and Road in Bellevue removed our rooftop tent and roof rack from the car for safety. And when they did remove it, they found out that the front feet of the roof rack had actually snapped in two, and that is what caused the whole system to fail initially. And that is what caused the rooftop tent to actually go down, hit the car, caused the damage on the bottom of the rooftop tent, and hit the roof rack of the car, and then fly back up, which caused in turn the back feet of the roof rack to fail. So in essence, while we were driving down the freeway, limping our way down back home, we were actually just having the roof rack attached on the back, which we initially thought was the one that failed in the first place. So it was very, very dangerous, and I am just very thankful that the rack and the tent held long enough for us to get back home and put ratcheting straps on it so that it did not fly down on the freeway, which could have had very dire consequences all around. So with this finding, I have to admit that I am honestly disappointed and frustrated with this whole thing because I did a lot of research before I chose the Frontrunner Slimline 2 roof rack and the rooftop tent that I got. And I always had experts install first the roof rack and then the rooftop tent. At any point in time, no one really told us that this could be an eventuality of the roof rack failing. So when I looked up roof racks, Frontrunner Slimline 2 had a very good reputation, and their roof rack is rated to hold 650 pounds of weight. Our rooftop tent, along with the awning, the crossbars, and the ski rack barely holds 240 pounds of weight. So I did not even consider that the roof rack would fail at any point in time. At the same time, when we had the rooftop tent installed on top of the roof rack, the rooftop tent guys just installed it and did not mention to us that, maybe that it could cause a roof rack failure because of how it was positioned in the car. I mean, I'm hearing all of this now that things failed, so I'm just honestly frustrated and disappointed with this whole thing. Luckily though, Frontrunner Slimline 2, I have to give them credit. They are standing by their limited warranty, and they are shipping off the foot of the roof rack to us to replace it. But given what's happened, I don't know if I would trust the feet of the roof racks to stay and not have the same thing happen again in a couple of months' time. Just to note, we've only had our rooftop tent and roof rack for 5 months. We purchased the roof rack October 1st, 2020, and had the rooftop tent installed on it October 2nd, 2020. So we've only had 5 months of use of this before everything failed. And after this incident, I did a couple of searches online, of course, and I found that the rack itself does hold on to their promise. It can support all the load, and you can even see the picture of the Frontrunner roof rack being held up, hoisted by a crane, and it's staying on the Jeep pretty well. So the rack really does not fail. What fails, apparently, with all the other comments that I've been reading online, is that the feet of the roof rack, they seem fairly flimsy when they attach to the Subaru Outback. So I also want to give a shout out to the manager of Rack and Road in Bellevue, Jamie. He went over and beyond, and he took down the roof rack and the rooftop tent for our peace of mind and safety. And that's the only reason we found out that the front feet of the roof rack actually snapped in the first place. I shudder to think of us driving down the freeway and that thing just flying off. So he right now recommended that our best bet is to just get a Prinsu, which if you look at my previous videos, I was actually considering in the first place. I was torn between the Prinsu and the Frontrunner Slimline 2 roof rack, which would both be a platform, evenly bear the weight of the rooftop tent and all of that. But I went with the Frontrunner roof rack initially because it was easier to install. It was a bit cheaper, but now lesson learned. It seems that the Prinsu is better all the way around because it bolts directly to the car, so hopefully less chances of parts failing at this point in time. So I will probably do another video at some point when we do get our Prinsu roof rack and the rooftop tent on top of it again. So again, this is just my honest review of what happened to our Frontrunner Slimline 2 roof rack after 5 months of use. And this is just regular, camping, driving on the road. We're not rock crawling. Honestly, the Subaru Outback is not made for that, and I would not put my car in any sort of stress like that. So this is all just Forest Service roads and regular freeways that it's been on when the feet of the roof rack failed. I hope this is a lesson that I'm able to share with all of you, and I hope you learned from this. And if you have any other questions, and if you have any comments on what could have gone wrong or what we could do right, or any suggestions, please don't hesitate to hit that comment below. And if you like this, please hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you for listening to this, and have a great day. Happy roamings, everybody. Bye.